Okay, we're going to finish up here and then move on to the Celtic Cross. Okay, so we talked about finding balance through sort of taking a break from things and being more patient. There's a big idea of fertility in the past few cards. The Empress and the Hermit and Art all have a sense of coming to fruition, pregnancy, and so there is a big sense of feeling inspired to continue doing things like tarot and whatnot. It's a big source of enjoyment for you, and it's a matter of doing that. I think the other aspect of this is going from more the private sphere of doing it and doing it more publicly. Um, and perhaps trying to find balance between the two. That it might not necessarily be best to throw all your eggs in one basket with either one, either the mundane life and the more spiritual life. That you sort of need to deal with both equally and find a middle ground between them, and continue to do this on the side, but also perhaps bring it more into your daily life, or be more vocal about it perhaps, but don't let it define everything you do. The message that comes to me is take pride in your other work too. Um, then you have the Aeon, or Judgment, and the Eight of Swords. This again speaks to big inspiration and big life changes that happen, and these sort of suffocate your clarity. I do get the sense that you're making some major shift in your life, either when it comes to work, or I'm not quite sure, but whatever it is, it's distracting you from being able to really decide where it is you want to put that focus. You've got a lot going on because of this change, and it's difficult for you to see clearly through it. There's a lot that you have to think about at once because of it. A lot of micromanaging, I sense. The Nine of Cups and the Seven of Wands. These are minor influences and sort of in the background. And I think the thing about this is that in this change, part of you does, again, I think, want to try too hard to make it. You're trying too hard to create your own happiness in a very, I think, idealistic sense. I think part of you wants to believe that you can just you can sort of force happiness into your life. And I think when you take the more passive route, as we've seen, you're actually happier. The reading spoke before of sort of finding real happiness in a more calm stance, in a less trying so hard stance. And I think, whatever this new position is, because it's so new and you're concerned about it, I think you're reverting back to feeling like you have to try too hard. And I don't think you do necessarily. And that might either be trying too hard to get people to like you, or to fit into this new situation, to make it work in a way that makes you very happy, and it may not, And I think the final result card is the Queen of Cups, which is sort of the big intuitive court card. She is, well, on one hand, I think she tends to blend into social situations very seamlessly, because she doesn't want to bother anyone, and she's very considerate of others, and she's also very reflective. She thinks a lot about herself, not necessarily in a bad way. It can be, but not in this case. It's more the contemplative type of self-analysis. Um, and I think it's saying that ultimately you don't need to worry about fitting in or making this work. That you're going to, it's sort of going to be like a puzzle where you'll fit in very seamlessly, and that tact you have and that care and grace you bring to your life is going to make this transition, this social transition, easy for you. You don't have to try so hard. Excuse me. Also, it speaks to being able to continue doing more spiritual things. Um, she's got a bit of Gemini, and I do sense that there is going to kind of continue to be that division between your spiritual life and your mundane life. And again, art keeps popping in my head as sort of needing to try to fuse those two together in a way that is practical, and not necessarily, um, I guess, too idealistic. You know, it's not telling you necessarily to drop what you're doing and become a professional tarot reader, period, or anything like that. Um, it is saying that you can temper the two together, but it is also saying to go about that very patiently, reflectively, and pragmatically. Those are sort of the themes that I have here. And just enjoy every minute of it. Enjoy it as a process of discovery. So that is your opening of the key reading. And so now I'm going to do the Celtic Cross business. Now I apologize, I have no idea how to edit this on here. I have a Mac, and I use, when I try to make the video myself and then upload it, it takes forever, first of all. And secondly, it almost never works. It takes forever to figure out the settings to make it work. So I'm just going to keep doing it here if you don't mind, and not jump. Sorry, you're going to have to watch me shuffle. But we're just going to ask that we receive a more general interpretation of that and some advice in the form of the Celtic Cross. I hope that first reading made sense, because it can be very confusing. It's got a lot going on there. Of course, it doesn't really speak to specific events. It speaks more to how you're feeling and the results of certain situations. Alright, we'll give them one more shuffle. I like to shuffle a lot. Oh. Okay. So your overall situation is the Eight of Discs, the Lord of Prudence. The crossing factor is the Ten of Cups again. Haha. Recurring themes. Your crowning thought is the Chariot. Your root of the situation is the Eight of Cups. This is so far echoing exactly what the first reading said. The past is the Aeon. How fun is that? The immediate future, or what is waxing, as opposed to waning in the past, is the Ten of Swords. How you see yourself, your stance on it, is the Moon. Your environmental factors are the Hierophant. Your hopes and fears, the Four of Swords, and the overall outcome is the Prince of Swords. And your deep card is the Ace of Wands. Okay, let me see if I can better fit this in here. I'm going to have to... Oh dear, this isn't going to work easily. I apologize. Don't have a good setup here, and these cards are so big. Okay. So, again, with the Eight of Discs here, I see the need for you to remain practical throughout the situation. And again, you have Virgo. You know, the Hermit is Virgo. But the sense of fertility and patience and needing to let things germinate and come into fruition based on whatever practical work you do in your situation. It's the card of agriculture, straight up. And your obstacles, sort of what is not quite working for you, is the Ten of Cups. And again, that speaks to community and having a difficult time making those lasting relationships, or that's your immediate concern. There's a sense of longevity to both of these cards, which I think is interesting. Oddly enough, I sort of like to read in the circle, even though I lay them differently, but the root of the situation being the Eight of Cups, again, that speaks to dissatisfaction with what you're doing and the social environment you find yourself in. The Eight has Saturn in Pisces, and so it seems to echo the Prince of Discs essence, that sort of tedium of the mundane of your work life. And perhaps the social setting of that. It just seems to be suffocating in a way. It doesn't cater to your more idealistic needs. It's become dry for you and you're looking to leave it. You have two eights sort of next to each other, and 8 being the number of Mercury is speaking to thinking a lot about this rationally and perhaps abstractly trying to put a plan together to change this for yourself. Your crowning thought is the Chariot, and I think in this case, given the nature of the first reading, we can say that the Chariot might have something to do with movement, wanting to get out of this situation, like feeling like you have the ability, if you just harness it, to go someplace else. And again, that sort of balance of two things is inherent in that card. Wanting to be led in a new direction by both those things, both the, as I said in the previous reading, the intuitive side and the practical side. You know, your private versus public selves, sort of letting those two take you in a new location, a new situation. But the interesting thing is that you have the Aeon in the past, in the immediate past, and in the previous reading we saw this as not really necessarily being a bad thing, but it was something that left you sort of alone and contemplative, and it was a very sweeping worldview, either you know, sort of in regards to your relationships with people or the way you try to fit yourself in with people. And I think you're sort of not. I think you've had the realization of it here, and I think right now you're sort of still dealing with the repercussions of that. Because obviously, just because we receive the message of it doesn't mean we necessarily take it fully to heart. That takes time too, and I think that's what the Eight of Discs may be telling you as well. And your immediate future is the Ten of Swords, which really says that this effort here is going to sort of fall apart. Okay, I will return to that in part 4.